I do not believe there's anyone more awakened or enlightened than anybody else on the face of the planet. I think that's a very deep trap that people can get caught in. All of us, as human beings, if you're a gardener that has no care about the geopolitical state of the world and just wants to tend to your rose garden or your herb garden, grow some veggies, fantastic. Like, if nobody meditates, fantastic. If people take plant medicines, fantastic. People injure themselves through certain choices that they make, fantastic. When you look at nature, it is rich in biodiversity. Everything is doing its own thing in its own unique way. Things get out of balance for a while and then it shifts itself to compensate. Whether it's a bushfire or a lightning storm or a tornado or a cyclone or a flood or this, that, and the other, right? Nature is always creating harmony, balance, and biodiversity. Now, there's a trap we can fall into as human beings where we want other people to think and behave and act a certain way. Like, we're not going to get to 5D consciousness unless a certain amount of people wake up at this particular point in time. Like, we're running out of time for this thing. You know, the starseeds have told us that this needs to happen. And I'm here to guide you and help elevate your consciousness so that this can happen.
Hi, Pete. Welcome to Elevated Conversations. It's great to have you on the show and connect with you finally.
Hey, thank you for having us, and g'day everyone that's watching and listening. Nice to be here.
So we've got a lot of our followers are from the United States, and they probably don't know who you are and your story and your journey. But this We're Awakening Education. We talk about people's journeys and etc. So for you going through this most interesting of stories and awakenings, let's start today by talking about how did it kind of begin for you? Like, when did you go from that moment where I was like, hang on, I'm not just going to live my life like a robot and starting to like wake up, so to speak. When was that?
Yeah, well, I'll just preface that by if you've got Americans or any Americans listening, you might know me. I used to host a show on PBS for 8 years called A Movable Feast. And that was myself traveling around pretty much COVID. So I got to travel the breadth of the United States, which was just such a beautiful experience for me. I got to meet farmers, fisher people, amazing chefs, and just people that are really switched on. I would have to say that the American food system is so far more advanced than what we have here in Australia. It was a real eye opener for me. So congratulations to the Americans for showing me around and welcoming me into their country. And if you know of Dr. McCullough, I've co-authored 3 books with him, 2 with my name on it. One, they weren't allowed to put my name on it apparently because I was more controversial than Dr. McCullough, which is saying something. So check them out. The books are on fasting and ketogenic, and if you're interested, I've written 30 other cookbooks. On delicious food. 20 are focused on the ancestral way of eating, or paleo, ketogenic, if you like. A lot of meat, good seafood, organic fruit and veg, eggs, nuts, seeds, full stop. So all of those books take away modern grains and also modern dairy, or pasteurized and homogenized dairy. But getting back to your question of awakening, pretty much when I was born, I guess, or in the womb, like everybody's awakening process is through conception, and then, as whatever people believe, spirit, soul, consciousness, that gets formed in utero. And obviously, we can definitely take on a lot of our beliefs, especially through our mother, while we're in the womb state, and that has been proven over and over again. So I guess the adventure that I'd like to invite people on is to explore who they are without the uh, imprinted, indoctrinated, inherited beliefs that we obtain from our parents, from our culture, from our family, from our upbringing, so to speak, from our teachers, from our siblings, from the religion we may be indoctrinated into. And once we can ask the question of who am I, without any of those beliefs, we can start, I believe, to get to the root of who we are, and I'm sure you've explored this in many of your podcasts and adventures as well. And who we are, we are infinite beings of unconditional love. It's when we remember that, everything pretty much falls into place. It's just
Sounds so
take
easy, Pete.
yeah, I don't think it needs to be defined as easy or hard. These again just labels that people like to put onto things. Where I like to use the word adventure. I think adventure is a much more enjoyable terminology than challenge, or something is too difficult or too hard, or you have to work hard to do this, like you got to do the fucking work or the shadow work or all this. It's like, fuck, why do we have to use the word? I mean work, not word. Why do we use the word work? It already has a connotation that it's going to be difficult or it's unpleasurable. Let's perhaps look at our vocabulary about how we address these types of things. Even the word awakening, I believe that there's no one person on this planet that is more awake or enlightened than anybody else. To say that is based on the idea of ego. I honestly believe everybody is enlightened and awakened as every other person and creature on the face of the planet. It's just that remembrance, I think, is the key to it all. It's not like one person is more blessed or has worked harder to find this out. It's our default. It's inbuilt. It's our innate wisdom. It's just remembering that and rediscovering it. It already is there, so it's not like we need to work hard at it. So, have I answered your question yet about awakening? Womb state and pretty much every minute of every day since then. It's, and until the end of this experience as Pete Evans in this earth suit, so to
Yeah.
speak.
It's interesting, we go through many kind of rebirths and awakenings and deaths and rebirths of the ego. And recently a lot of people that we're talking to and around are going through that process as well as ourselves. And so I guess integration, after doing some deep inner healing work, we know that you've gone to Rhythmia Life Advancement Center over in Costa Rica. How did you find going into that journey? What was that like for you? And then the integration process coming home, because that was well before COVID and when a lot of lights started to, turn on over the planet.
Yeah, Arrhythmia is a wonderful setup, and I was very grateful to be invited to attend that, and I documented it too. I made a short 40-minute episode of my journey there and other people's journeys there. It coincided with an amazing man called Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, and others. So there were 40 of us. Obviously, they take a large group of people from all around the world to sit with this medicine and get to leave. I took my director with me and a cameraman, and we shot pretty much every day whenever I could, interviewing people on why they were there and what their process was, including myself, which was a pretty interesting thing to do because pretty it's pretty grueling to sit with grandmother for 4 nights in a row and integrate and then work to create a documentary at the same time. Like I probably bit off more than I could chew. And Yeah, it was a beautiful experience every night that we sat for the medicine. Obviously, it's a different recipe of ayahuasca for us each and every night through the different shamans and preparers that they have there. And yeah, some nights it was grueling, other nights it was a walk in the park, as they would say. And I definitely got what I needed from that experience. I got to one of the nights was so beautiful. I think it was the first night actually. I got to ask 1,000 questions and get an answer immediately with such clarity, beautiful clarity, and that was a really easeful journey for me. I think I just had the sweats that night. I sweated a lot. Second night, it was I don't remember exactly what that was, but the third night really was challenging. That adventure was really challenging for me. And the fourth night, I didn't want to go and have the fourth night because the third night was so brutal. You know, it was a brutal experience. It wasn't terrifying. It was just arduous. It was difficult. So I didn't really want to go back for the fourth journey, but I did, and that was a long journey as well, and also beautiful. I mean, we get what we can take. And,
The
and,
Yahey, hey, that was the Yahey night. It's a long night, isn't it? It's like,
it's a
wow.
it's a long night, but you know, there are much worse things we can experience in this world than a tough night on ayahuasca, that's for sure. And I had sat with 5-MeO DMT or Bufo, or various toad medicine prior to that. So, um, I once you've consumed Bufo, uh, I think everything else pales in comparison. Not to say that it's not a challenging adventure to go on any of these plant medicine journeys, such as San Pedro or peyote or mushrooms, or some of the synthetic ones like ketamine. You know, it's a courageous step up to the plate for many people to sit with these medicines. But once you've experienced a hero dose of toad, um, there's very little else that you can experience in this in this experience of being human that can compare to that. And that's been my greatest teacher. I have to say that sitting with toad medicine has been by far one of the greatest teachers for me so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. So for some of our listeners that haven't tried Bufo before, the experience is smoking. You probably know the correct language around it. It's where you breathe and smoke in. What's it called? The crucicha? Is that how do I say that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Off the
It's
toad.
the secretions,
Yeah, the
yeah,
secretions.
of the gland, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's as they say, the God molecule. But it's
Mm.
like did it come in a crystalline like form when you were having it?
Yeah, it is. It does. And there's a wonderful documentary. It's on my platform, evolvenetwork.tv. It's called Bufo, The Underground Secret. And I mean, these medicines have been sat with for a very, very long time.
Mm.
We don't know exactly how long. And for some reason, there's one species of amphibian or toad that lives in the Sonoran Desert from Arizona down to into Mexico that we know of, has this unique molecule in it called 5-MeO DMT, which we also have endogenously in us as well.
Mm.
But when you sit with it in ceremony, it is a dried crystallized form. It comes from the secretion of the Sonoran Desert toad, and it is smoked. And it's from my understanding, the most powerful psychedelic on the face of the planet, or entheogenic medicine. Entheogen means awaken the divine within, and it's not to be it's definitely not to be played with, that's for sure, because whereas in most of the other psychedelics or hallucinogens or entheogenic medicines that are out there, generally you're always have awareness or consciousness of the individuated self, of the ego, of you. So Chef Pete Evans is sitting there. I know that I've consumed ayahuasca and I can still tap into who I am as Pete during that experience. Whereas for some reason, 5-MeO DMT, the science behind it is it overrides our default mode network. Um, I think it's our front neocortex. I'm not a scientist, so don't quote me on this, but the understanding is it shuts that down so that the ego, or what we sense as our identity, gets taken offline. So again, going back to what I was saying at the start of this conversation, is the greatest adventure we can go on is to work out who we are, and with the consumption of 5-MeO DMT, because that takes our ego or our identity offline for a period of time, we are left with that we experience that answer of who are we, because we get to have the experience of, they do call it the God molecule, as you mentioned, Pete. And, God is such a polarizing word or emotional word where everybody has their different beliefs about what it is. Whereas in this experience, you can call it source consciousness, if you like. You can call it infinite consciousness. You could call it God. You get to experience what it is like not to have an individuated piece of your consciousness perceiving this reality. You get to have the experience of the all, the God, the infinite living consciousness that has no beginning and no ending. And it talk about challenging. That is a very, very challenging experience, because we there's a common terminology called ego death or identity death in the psychedelic realm. And with the toad medicine, that is what you get to experience. So it does feel like you are dying or dissolving into nothingness. But our English language, or pretty much every language on the face of the planet, it's very difficult to describe that experience, because all of our language is designed or interpreted through our sensory data. So how we see things, how we hear things, how we feel things, how we smell, how we touch, or all of our sensory data. So our sensory data is taken offline when we consume 5-MeO DMT. So language doesn't give it justice. Like, I can't tell you the experience because, again, it's beyond language. The best way that I've have described it, or had it described to me, is you get to experience everything that ever has been and everything that ever will be, and every possible permutation of reality, but you're not experiencing it as yourself. So it's
Mm.
very difficult to conceptualize, because Pete isn't having the experience. Pete's gone, but the experience is everything that ever will be and ever. Once you have experienced it, what it leaves you with is that is the true nature of reality. And this waking state of the human earth suit, and this is what we're doing now, is more like a dream state.
Mm.
And it's like having a dream when you're asleep and thinking it's so real that you're in there, and then you wake up and you go, oh, that was just a dream. It's sort of the opposite of that. You think this is reality, what we're experiencing now. And when you have 5-MeO DMT or another very strong psychedelic where you have that egoic death and tap in that samadhi state, then you go, oh, okay, this is the reality. That's the waking dream that we're all experiencing here. And so it can be very challenging for people to reconcile after an experience like that. But it, what it taught me was that the human experience is, we're here to have fun. This is playtime, because we can touch, taste, smell, feel, hear, all of those beautiful senses. We can enjoy a sunset, we can enjoy making love, we can enjoy the aroma of a beautiful dinner that we're cooking. This is the gift. The
Mm.
human experience is the gift, to savor with all of our senses, if we have access to them, of course, and not to take it too seriously, because we're here to have a lot of fun. Because after this, we don't get to have that individuated sensory data interaction with life, so to speak. So, yeah, enjoy this journey. Have fun with it.
It's such a gift that you've experienced that, and you can really ground in the human experience, because so many people don't get that perception, that perspective at all, in their life. They basically just living 9 to 5, and they're just in robot mode. So it's beautiful to hear that high perspective, and then be able to ground in your soul and really walk in it and enjoy it. It's good. It's
Well, one of the other things that it allows you to do is face your fears.
yeah.
Sitting with these medicines is as I said, it's a pretty brave and courageous thing to do. It's pretty, it's not recreational. Let's put it that way.
No.
And or they can be. People use psychedelics to go to parties and concerts and go for hikes and things like that. And I'm not recommending people take psychedelics. I would never recommend anybody to do anything. You have free will to be curious and educate yourself about these topics. Please don't take my word for it. This is just my perception and experience. But it definitely allowed me to face a lot of fears through that process, going through your own death process, and it feels very, very real, like you have killed yourself. That is a wonderful thing to get through. And which again gives you more appreciation to this beautiful gift that we've given in this earth suit to have fun and play. And but yeah, what it taught me was a greater appreciation of this one life, which is why I want to live for as long as I possibly can, but not in a fanatical way where I don't live. We've all seen the documentaries and photos and people on Instagram wanting to live forever, but they don't seem like they are actually living. They're like on this very regimented way of living. I think life is to be flexible, to be spontaneous, to have mystery around it. But so my intention, without any expectation, is to be around for as long as I can to not only watch everything unfold as things are unfolding by the minute at the moment around the world on the geopolitical stage, but also to contribute as well, because we're wonderful manifestors and co-creators, and there's 8 billion of us on this planet, that we can all manifest our dreams into reality. That is the human being's superpower. I think often people can forget that our one superpower is our ability to have an idea, a concept, and bring it into reality. That is what we are here to do. It is so simple. Our purpose is nothing more than turning our dreams into reality. I think people get a little stuck on what purpose is, that we have to be here to help people, and that can be an egoic trap. I've seen it too many times for it not to stick out like dog's balls these days. It's purpose is to express ourselves creatively in whichever way brings you joy and ignite your passion, and I wonder how many influencers out there in the health space are actually having joy and creating passion with what they're doing, rather than thinking they have to do it because it's their purpose. But I believe if we can plant the seed of what is purpose is our natural creative expression that brings us joy. And if it brings other people joy, so be it. Fundamental reality, I believe, is that we bring ourselves joy, unconditional love. We be selfish first and foremost, always, before trying to help anybody else on their journey. Because if we are the undertakers and we believe it is our purpose to help others, we're already disempowering those people from empowering themselves. No, you got to do it this way. Come and I'll hold your hand. Like, no, fuck off. Let me do it myself. Let me work this out. I might use you as a guide, but please don't hold my hand on this journey, because I'm a sovereign, unlimited potential human being that is genius. Every single person on this planet is a genius in their own right, that has the ability to co-manifest or manifest their own reality and turn their dreams into reality. So sorry if I went a little deeper there, but it's just something that I see a lot these days, and
it can definitely be a trap.
There I am.
Yeah, we see it amongst people all the time as well. Like, you're so true and real there, because it just resonates deeply in my heart about you get to the point where you realize that, and it's like the joy and the authentic soul is the highest on the scale of consciousness. And if that's what we're here to do, it's not service, it is service, but service to ourselves. And then that has a ripple effect out. And a lot of people in the spiritual realm are definitely like, we're here for the mission. We're running out of time, all these types of kind of frequencies coming out of people. And it's like, yeah, but enjoy it as well, because it's over quick, time flies.
Well, that's a belief.
Yeah.
Sorry to throw that at you there, but I invite you to contemplate these types of words that a lot of us can use. We're running out of time. Time is quick. There's not enough time. There's, these things. Our words are spells. And it's one of the most overlooked things that we don't take responsibility over. Are all those little sayings that, again, did our parents used to say that? Did our influencers or the people that our gurus say that, and that we've taken it on board? Was it our work colleagues that said that? Was it a favorite movie that we've watched, or a TV show, or a book that we've read, that time is quick, you got to act now, it's running out, the world's ending, this, that, the other, like, fuck, we've got to do all of this stuff. It's like, well, really?
The world's
If you look at nature is never in a hurry, right? Nature is always finding balance. It's always in balance, no doubt, or harmony, and it's, and I'm not saying we we can't expedite things in our own life, and I'm not saying that also we can't be lethargic and slow and contemplative and all of these things, because we can. As human beings, we have the choice to run a million miles an hour, and we see that with people's actions. We see endurance athletes. What are they running from? What are they running towards? I'm generalizing here, so please don't take any criticism about endurance athletes. There's some amazing things that you can get from that. But at the same time, I'll give you an example here. My wife and I have been running a wellness retreat for the last 4 years. And one thing that I've observed deeply is how difficult it is for some people that come here to actually relax and switch off and just find themselves in a hammock and without having to do something for an hour, and just being by themselves, because they're so used to being on. It can be a mother or a father that's always on for their children, or they're always on because they've got a deadline to commit to at work, and they've got so much responsibility. So they're in this fight or flight of stress the whole time, that the notion of just sitting by themselves with a book and doing nothing for an hour or two, that becomes stress for something, and I'm not busy. And these types of things can be so detrimental to our health and our spirit or soul, as you said before. When we don't recognize when ourselves are out of balance or out of harmony with what we're really needing in our day-to-day or week-to-week or year-to-year existence. And that time is going fast thing can be a trap and a spell as well, that because that can create stress in our bodies, because, oh, I'm never going to get it all done, and then the question is, what do you need to get done? What is it that isn't going to survive if you don't get it done? There's different things, obviously. Caring for a baby or a toddler, that's full responsibility for that period of time. But
yeah, I was sitting there listening to what you were saying there. It was just so beautiful. I remember having the laughing Buddha come through to me one night on a ceremony, and I finally worked out why the Buddha was laughing, because I'd always wondered, and it was exactly what you were just saying then. It's like, well, people take things too seriously, and what's it matter? And the Buddha's just lying there laughing, and I was, on the mattress having a great old laugh, because it's like I got it.
yeah,
And I realized that. And then when you were speaking as well, I had come through to me those beautiful words. I was just talking about that beautiful saying that goes along with what you were saying so nice that, be still and know that I am God, in those moments with yourself,
Hmm.
right? Where you're getting coffee, you just feel that I am presence, that the little bit of contemplation, and you're the observer, and it's a beautiful thing to like within yourself, just feel that and be at peace with it. I sometimes I know it's the most crazy thing, but on the lawnmower, I might be doing some mowing, and I just go into the most beautiful bliss state, sitting on the right on the lawnmower. I got the most beautiful feelings coming on through, and I'm doing a task like that where the logical mind is switched to another channel, and it's like out of the way.
Beautiful.
Yeah, but I,
Yeah. We
I,
mow quite a lot. We've got a couple 100 acres and we're mowing a couple of hours a day at the moment. So
then, right? You get it.
we know. We know. I got my little four-wheel drive mower stuck in a ditch today, so I had to Nick, my wife, and I, we got the four-wheel drive out to tow it out. It was good. Luckily, I didn't flip it, but
Oh my
definitely
goodness.
keeps you present. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And those moments where you're at, with yourself, it's like I feel like after hearing you speak about Bufo, I need a bigger dose. It's like I did Bufo, it was beautiful. I felt myself as a molecule, as you were saying. It was wonderful, but I feel like I could go again after listening to what you said. I've been to the golden arches and the spiraling staircases and had the golden light beings come through. And that leads me to what I wanted to ask you about. Have you ever had like experiences when you're deep in these different states that you go into, where you've experienced angels, light beings, Pleiadians, Arcturians, mantis beings, these different things that people talk about, the machine elves? Have you ever experienced, like, let's call them entities beyond our normal perception, but often we hear about? Have you had any yourself?
Yeah, I have, and it's a fascinating topic because everybody has their own belief about what these things may be, and there's there's some belief that everything, we are the universe, which I would agree with. So everything we have the capacity to hold all information from, there never has been a beginning and there never will be an end, and there will be no death of the universe. It always has been and always contained anyway. So people do believe about aliens and um, uh, everything else that you mentioned there before. So do these things reside in us as physical, or are they just potentially cellular memory from the past or perhaps the future that we have access to when we're in these expanded states of consciousness, you know? So I of things, and what I love, to be honest with you, is not knowing it all. I love to have the mystery of reality as well, even though I said you get the true nature of reality with an experience like Bufo. But at the same time, there is still a huge question mark over why, how all of this, which I love. I believe the mystery is good for us. I really do believe the mystery is good for us. And I do not wish to know the answer to everything, even though in my first ayahuasca experience, I said I asked 1,000 questions and I got a thousand answers, which was great. I'm a curious type of person. I like to ask questions. But at the same time, the paradox is I like the mystery. I like to have the unknown also. So, but to answer your question, yes, I've experienced these sort of different, what you would call um, otherworldly beings or experiences. Um, but was that manifested in my experience or my journey with these medicines from something that I've read before, something that I've heard, something that I've seen, something that I might have dreamt about. You know, we have dreams where we create these fantastical worlds and sometimes fantastical beings. You know, where did that um, encounter with a being, if you want to call it that, where did that stem from? Was it in a dream-like state? Is it part of us? You know, are we having a communication with something that's so microscopic in us? You know, if you look at our cells and all the different things and the parasites under microscopes, you know, is that just part of us that we would call alien that we haven't discovered yet that's in us? Or is it in a different part of the universe? I don't know. You know, it, put it this way, when I did have that experience, it wasn't challenging because one thing I was taught from early on with my journeys with psychedelics was trust, accept, surrender. You know, trust, accept, surrender. So whatever's happening, trust it, accept it, surrender to it. Do not attempt to fight it or feel like it is evil or dangerous or it's going to possess me or anything like that, because I don't believe that we can be possessed and I don't believe in negative entities. I do not believe in that. A lot of people do, you
Mm.
know, and congratulations to those people that do, you know, if that's your belief that you believe there's negative things out there trying to get you, and so sweet, you know, I respect your belief. That is a belief, right? I don't have that belief. I do not think that there's anything out there to get me or can possess me or attach itself to me. I have had lots of people through the years say, "Oh, just letting you know, I believe you've got a negative energy entity attached to you, and I'd like to do a remote healing for you for free if you like." Yeah, okay, sweet. If that's your belief, so be it. You know, I'm not here to discount anyone, but I think it does come. I think it does come down to our individual beliefs. You know, if you believe there's Palladian star seeds out there, fantastic. Our beliefs dictate our reality. All right. It's as simple as that. If enough people believe in something that's called an egregore, it can actually manifest into, you know, something that people believe is real. You know, I've seen this happen over the last decade in certain areas. We saw it through COVID. You know, COVID was an egregore, you could define it as, you know, it overran their belief in this because they were told about it and then became fearful about it, replace COVID with negative entities or demonic energies or this, that, and the other. You can see how people fall into the belief of these things, because I do not believe there's anything outside of me that can have power over me or anything inside of me that can have power over me. But if you have a belief that there are things out there that can control you and that you have to defend yourself against, that might be a big invitation or a question to go on an adventure of, why do I not feel trust? Why do I not trust in who I am and my sovereignty and the strength of who I am as an individuated piece of consciousness? You know, that
Mm.
is the all as well, you know, so
But
you
Pete,
know, and again, I'm not having a go at anybody or trying to trigger anybody, but I'm just, you know, you can see similarities out there where we can create these beliefs that we aren't powerful as individuals, you know, and I'd like to plant the other seed that we have so much power, especially over our beliefs, and our beliefs, as you've seen, you know, people like forgotten his name now. Biology of belief. What is his name? Um, wow, how's that for a brain fog? It'll come to me. Um, he believes that the author of Biology of Belief, who I'm sure
yes,
you all know who I'm
I've
talking
heard
about,
of the book. I can't help you
we
though. The
can
name
put
was,
disease into remission.
yeah,
We can put our Dr. Bruce Lipton. There you go, Dr.
Upstairs,
Bruce
yeah.
Lipton. Um, we can we can put incurable diseases into remission through our belief. You know, we can make ourselves be sick through our belief because, oh, there's a flu or a cold going around. Oh, I hope I don't catch it. Whereas the other belief is, oh, some people are getting sick. I'm strong enough that I will not get sick like those people, and remove the word that you can catch something from somebody else. You know, it again comes down to our language, but underneath that is our beliefs. So if we focus on our language and our beliefs, who am I? And once we get to that point of powerful, independent, sovereign, full responsibility, full accountability. If I do get sick, it was my fault. It was nobody else's fault. If I do suffer an injury, it was my fault, nobody else's fault. If I chose that partner for a romantic relationship and it didn't work out, that was my fault because I chose that person. It's not their fault. They can work out their side of the things. I chose it. If I lost money on a deal, that's my fault. If somebody ripped me off, my fault. I accept full ownership, responsibility, and accountability for every single action that I make. Because then there is nobody else to blame, and then you can never be the victim. And then that is where true freedom lies, instead of pointing the finger at other people. Because if you're pointing the finger, it means that you're the victim. You've always got someone else to blame for the situation you're in, so which is very disempowering. So it can be very challenging for that notion, and it's an adventure for people to go on if they choose to.
Yeah, it is, because there's not many people who speak like you just spoke then. Like, we speak to lots and lots of people, and for you to be able to articulate freedom like you just did like that is unique. And that knowing, like, it's a knowing that you've got to. I feel for you, it's beyond a belief, which is something that I feel like people who've got beliefs cling to them, right? They're too attached to them. It's like, for you, it's almost like this, you're living it. It's like a knowing. It comes through in what you're saying, which is powerful. What's your feeling on how some souls seem to be able to take to this more like second nature, hand in a glove? It feels familiar. They're more open to use different permission slips, forms of connecting to all that is, and remembering, and even going on this journey to be able to give a beautiful explanation like you just gave. What's your thoughts on the old soul? Or, right, some of these people just get it quicker than others, like they say some are like dry wood and we get the spark and we ignite with this sort of information. Others are sort of more a slow smolder and it takes a while to get going. Others are just not even interested. What's your feeling on all of that?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit through that, but I think I got the gist of the question, and I'll do my best to answer it succinctly. My perception on what others do is just an observation. I have no expectations on what anybody else on the face of the planet does with their time on here. I am a firm believer in free will for all, and I do not, it does not make me any more happier to see somebody that has gone down the same path as I have gone down, or sitting with plant medicines, compared to the person that chooses to go to the pub with their mates and have a beer and talk about footy and watch the game. Again, I'll go back to what I said before. I do not believe there's anyone more awakened or enlightened than anybody else on the face of the planet. I think that's a very deep trap that people can get caught in. All of us as human beings, again, we're here to express ourselves authentically. So I do my best to not judge how other people choose to live their lives. What we're talking about here, I have friends that this doesn't interest them in the slightest, but they're still my friends, right? I don't need them to have this. I don't need to have a conversation with them about this. I had no idea what we were going to talk about today when you invited me on here, because we haven't met before. And I was speaking to my wife 2 days ago about this, and we've got a new book out. And I did this wonderful podcast last week with this man from the United States who has a podcast about books. And he was a beautiful older man, and I could tell just a gentle, beautiful human being. And we spoke for an hour. He was fascinated about cooking, about the craft and art of cooking. We conversed for an hour about how beautiful it is to create a meal and talked about ingredients and what we could do and just again engaging the senses about cooking. And I know that this conversation probably I shouldn't even anticipate what he would like and what he wouldn't like, but perhaps this isn't his cup of tea, for instance, right? And that's so cool. I would rather, have everything as it is right now. Everything's perfect, whether you believe it or not, but everything is perfect. It always has been and it always will be. So I celebrate and respect the fellas that go down to the pub and get pissed and watch the footy. Fantastic. If that makes you happy and that's how you like to express yourself, because that is you, please do it. If there's activists out there that like to protest and fight against the system, fantastic. If that's your purpose that brings you joy and elation and builds your passion and you're doing it because you want to do it, fantastic. If you're a gardener that has no care about the geopolitical state of the world and just wants to tend to your rose garden or your herb garden or grow some veggies, fantastic. Like if nobody meditates, fantastic. If people take plant medicines, fantastic. People take pharmaceuticals, fantastic. People injure themselves through certain choices that they make, fantastic. I celebrate it all because the last thing that I would ever want to see, unless it happened organically through free will, is for everybody to think the same and behave the same and look the same and do the same thing. I mean, when you look at nature, it is rich in biodiversity. Everything is doing its own thing in its own unique way, which supports the rest. Sometimes things get out of balance for a while, and then it shifts itself to compensate, right? Whether it's a bushfire or a lightning storm or a tornado or a cyclone or a flood or this, that, and the other, right? Nature is always creating harmony, balance, and biodiversity. Now, there's a trap we can fall into as human beings where we want other people to think and behave and act a certain way. Like, we're not going to get to 5D consciousness unless a certain amount of people wake up at this particular point in time. Like, we're running out of time for this thing. The star seeds have told us that this needs to happen. And I'm here to guide you and help elevate your consciousness so that this can happen, right? Like, sweet, fantastic. You go on that journey and do that. Where the other person, he's smoking his ciggy, drinking his beer, going, you know what? Fuck that. I don't want to know about the star seeds. I would just want to sit here and watch the fucking footy with my mates and yell at my dog. Sweet. Right? Like, how cool is it? Could you imagine if Netflix only had one genre of show on? That was all like Gaia, 5D Awaken. And we've got a subscription to Gaia. I love Gaia, but I do not want to watch Gaia every night of my life. I want to watch a thriller. I want to watch action. I want to watch comedy. I want to watch the documentaries about spirituality and medicines and this, that, and the other, right? Variety, biodiversity, uniqueness, authenticity. That is what we're here for, I believe, to be ourselves and to be as unique as fucking possible and not scared to express our uniqueness in the way that makes you feel good without the fear of, if I say this, my wife or my husband or my kids or my parents or my work colleagues will be upset at me because I'm scared to voice my opinion, my belief. That creates dis-ease, right? Imagine if everyone's just doing their own thing, without hurting anybody. It's like the whole thing over censorship and hate speech and this and that. You will probably see more of it as more as they try to, I don't even like to use the word they because there is no fucking they. When things get suppressed and human beings try to control, right? We've seen that over the last 4 or 5 years. COVID, great experiment for control. You know, it's like holding a beach ball underwater. They held it under there for quite some time.
Mm.
And they had a few people helping them, the general public. Oh, let's hold this beach ball under here too, because now that beach ball is fucking, it's risen. And so where I'm getting to, the more we try to suppress, but also at the same time control, because we only try to control when we're fearful of others or the outcome or of sovereignty or freedom of speech or freedom of travel. When we let go of control, when we surrender, we trust and accept, then we have again freedom. So I love when these types of like COVID was great, because I knew deep down I was saying, you guys are holding the beach ball right down. It's going to pop up. I don't know when it'll pop up. I had no idea. Would it be a year? Would it be a decade? Would it be my lifetime? I don't know. And we're witnessing that on the geopolitical stage happening now. Like all these balls are starting to rise, and a new cycle will come in, a new awareness will come in, and then yeah,
Yeah.
that's my rant.
Yeah, I love it though. And it's good. It's good. We know you love surfing, you love mowing the lawn, but you also your passion really there for cooking and helping kids. So this is in your new book that you've just released. Let's tell us a bit more about that, Pete.
It's a beautiful book. I'll say that. I'm blessed to work with Children's Health Defence out of the United States, and they've got chapters all around the world, including Australia. I asked Robert Kennedy Jr., or Bobby as he's known, to introduce me to. I pitched the idea. I wanted to see if Children's Health Defence would want to do a book, and he pulled the levers and did the introductions to make it happen. And Skyhorse Publishing published it for us. They published Bobby's book on the real Anthony Fauci. And so, yeah, it's the first book I've released in 4 or 5 years since being cancelled. And it's 120 recipes for families. It's recipes in there for babies, toddlers, through teenage to adults in there. Good chunk of information. And my passion is planting seeds for long-term regenerative health for people. I do believe that most of us never have to go into the system if we don't have to. The system, the medical system, the pharmaceutical system, if we choose, we do not have to have Alzheimer's, dementia. We do not have to have heart disease, cancer, autoimmune disease, anything like that. If you do have any of those things, there is wonderful evidence that pretty much all of it can be either stopped or reversed or put into remission just through lifestyle changes. And the greatest lifestyle change, apart from our beliefs, changing our beliefs, that's always first and foremost. Our beliefs trump everything. I honestly believe our emotional beliefs and our patterns and our vocabulary that we use trump everything. Right? You can eat all the organic, non-inflammatory food in the world and still suffer disease if you do not believe that you can give love or receive love. If you do not believe that people can see you and hear you, or you cannot listen or listen to other people, if you do not feel like you are worthy or other people are worthy, if you think everybody else is a threat to you or you're a threat to yourself, these beliefs, I honestly believe this is the greatest opportunity that we have to really get in touch and to understand who we are. Going back to the start of the conversation, that is my number one priority. Number two under that is spending time in nature, having wonderful relationships as well, and probably number three is good food, good water. The basics. However, I do believe that the food is the quickest and easiest thing that we can change in our day-to-day lives. Getting to understand our beliefs can take, it's an adventure, you know, and there's different therapists out there, different therapies. We've discussed some of them today. Psychedelics are some, fasting is another one, meditation, contemplation, gene keys, human design, psychotherapy, talk therapy, this, that, and the other. I mean,
There's plenty.
there's a plethora to choose from, right? There's plenty to choose from, and wonderful people in all of these fields and experts in all these fields that can help guide people to unlocking the key for them. And but so that can be a little bit more of an adventure, you know. And it can be quick, you know, session with Toad, 20 minutes. It can unlock a lot of a lot of things for people. And I'm not recommending it, right? But there's different options that are out there for people, and there's different places in the world where these things, these treatments are legal. Okay, so it's up to you if you want to go on the curiosity journey and trust your intuition. You know, if that's something you never want to do, you know, maybe trust that intuition for now. But with the food, I think it's such a simple thing that we can change unless we have self-sabotaging beliefs that guide us, you know, with the things that we choose to eat. So again, going back to our beliefs, but changing our food, our diet to basically turn the food pyramid or the dietary guidelines on their head. Get some well-sourced meat and seafood, eat a lot of it, have some locally grown fruits and vegetables that are in season if your body can tolerate them. Nuts and seeds again, and eggs if your body can tolerate them from the best sources that haven't been sprayed with chemicals. I mean, it's so simple. It sort of beggars belief that I still have to talk about this. I do love talking about it, but it's like it's so simple and so common sense. It's put a piece of meat or fish on your plate, choose to have some beautiful veggies if you choose to, or some lettuce or whatever it is. Understand how your body works. Your body will tell you if you bloat after eating something or you have diarrhea, or your body's telling you. Your body is always telling you where you're bringing it out of balance, you know, whether it's joint pain, whether it's neck pain, whether it's brain fog, whether it's forgetfulness, whether it's gut issues, skin issues, whatever it may be, heart issues. Our body is always telling us, it's giving us the warning signs, always, always, usually for fucking decades or years before we get oh, okay, there's something really wrong here. I better go see somebody and ask them if they've got a pill for it. Whereas 99.9% of the time, it's always our rational beliefs, and our body's always telling us. And if we sit with ourselves long enough and we ask the question, why am I sick? You already know the answer. You know, nobody has to tell you. If you really ask yourself the question over and over and over and over, you already know the answer. Sometimes the answer you do not want to hear come out of your own mouth or in your own thoughts because you know it, and it will require massive amounts of change, which you will deem too painful. Sometimes the pain of not making the change will eventually get to you where you do have to make the change. It could be change of job, change of relationship, change of beliefs about who you are, this, that, and the other. But on the journey of that, if you want to create a little bit more vitality or a lot more vitality, perhaps add decades to your life and life to your decades, you can choose to eat some really beautiful, nutritious food that not only tastes good, but has the potential to give you the vitality so that you can go on that emotional adventure to find out these belief systems with the vitality, with the energy, without the pain, without the suffering, and without the lethargy and the tiredness,
And the
and
fog.
have that as the motivation to to go, okay, now I can deal with some of this shit if I want to or not. Right? I don't really mind what anybody does with their life, you know, but if you're interested in this, get your diet. If you choose to, it can do wonders. It can do so much. And our belief systems, as I've spoken at length about, can offer a lot too.
I'm sure you know, you've listened to Bashar, and it's been a theme of what you've been talking about today, you know, follow your highest excitement without being too attached to any particular outcome. If on the way to following your highest excitement, you get triggered along the way, you've got a false belief
Yep.
trying to show you where you're in error, right? And if you want, use permission slips that help you be more the authentic you that you are that's in there, whatever those permission slips look like for you, whichever ones people prefer. I feel like you've just summed all that up in a beautiful chat, Pete. I loved getting to hear this side of you. You know, I must say this is the most. I love the rants. I love seeing you on fire. It's like great to hear and seeing you shining and happy, and obviously living and embodying right what's been powerful in your life. So yeah, congratulations on your new book and all of your creations in the future too. It's been great speaking to you today.
Awesome. Thank you, Pete and Roxy. What a beautiful gift this has been. And thank you to everyone. Love you all. And anything that I've said that doesn't resonate, please let it go. Anything that I've said that does resonate, sweet too. Like sweet, sweet, sweet. Yeah. Love you all. Thank you so much. And just my perception and my beliefs, you know. You've got your own.
Thanks, Pete.